Welcome to Graya. I'm Anthony Tabor. We're going to be looking at the Samsung 970 EVO Plus as well as the Western Digital Black SN750, both 1TB. I upgraded to these NVMe drives because I'm coming from a hard drive and two SSDs that are filling up, and well, working on a hard drive can be very slow, especially with building software, editing video, and stuff like that. So then I jumped up over to these two drives, and I just put them in, and they're just being tested right now. So they're inserted in the computer. I'm still using all my old components to run Windows, and these are just in there to be testing. So I got a MSI X399 Gaming Pro AC motherboard, latest BIOS on that as well, and 32 gigs of RAM, DDR4, clocked at 2133. And one thing about the motherboard I should mention too is all the M.2 slots are connected to the processor. So not the chipset, not the X399 chipset. And we have a 1950X in there, so an AMD Threadripper 1950X, as well as we're using Windows 10 version 1809, and the latest build on this is 17763.379. So that's the latest Patch Tuesday updates to this. We are using, I'll go through the softwares here as I go through them, but we're using the Windows NVMe driver. I should mention that as well. Later on, I will show you with gaming mode on and for the Western Digital drive, and I will also show you the Samsung NVMe driver later on in this video. But starting out here, you can see the firmware version of each drive. We have the Samsung EVO Plus, and then we have the Western Digital Black SN750, both the 1TB in each of them. So you'll see here there you got your firmware versions, and yeah, I would name them off, but they're just a whole bunch of numbers and letters. And we'll just jump into some of the benchmarks here, and we're going to start off with Crystal Disk Mark, and this is a quick, easy one. You just download it. If it shows up weird, there's a fix UI bat inside the zip file. It fixes it to make it look like this again. And I just ran it with the defaults. So you can just get this up, going, press run. You got sequential, you got some randoms, you got different queue depths, and you got some different thread counts on them. And as you see here, these are the only two tests I will actually have the hard drive for and the Crucial MX300 for. My current SSD and hard drive. I have another SSD, it's older than this, so I didn't figure to throw that one in there as well. But yeah, really slow speeds overall, as you can tell, for those two. But then when you jump over to the Western Digital and the Samsung 970 EVO Plus, man, that is a huge speed increase. And when you're comparing those two, you'll notice that the Samsung kind of edges it out. And I ran these tests multiple times, anywhere from, they were all ran at least 3 times. If they all were within just a little percentage point of margin of error, we took a result. Basically, I just took one of them, and or I did, as you can see here. Otherwise, I ran sometimes over a dozen tests to see this, or to try to figure out some things. And I'll mention those kind of, I would say, problem childs. But I was trying to see if I was doing something wrong, or if it was something that, or basically was something I wasn't expecting, right? So this is just pretty standard benchmark. Go test it on your SSDs if you feel like it. But you'll see here the Samsung 970 EVO Plus does edge it out. So very, very interesting in that. But then as soon as I jump to the AS SSD, granted there's time in between, we're going through, and there's a sequential, there's randoms, there's access times, and then they give you a score. And what I found really interesting is you'll see you got the Samsung drive there, and then you have the Western Digital drive, and the Western Digital drive actually edges it out in some cases. So, you know, you look at the top line, and it looks like, you know, the read on the Western Digital kind of edges it out, the Samsung one, and, you know, it's a back and forth little match with, in the end, the Western Digital edging out. So this is the only time I ran the AS SSD benchmark, because later on when I was starting to test, you know, gaming mode and the Samsung NVMe driver, I'll explain it there. It just didn't seem worth it. But then let's jump into the ATTO disk benchmark. So ATTO, I don't know how to pronounce it, or if it's just ATTO. But this benchmark was really interesting, and I did basically the defaults for this first one, and then the second one that you'll take a look at here is I jumped it up to 16 gigabytes. So you can kind of see pushing a 16 gigabyte file down. I could have did 32, but I just did there. I actually like to increment throughout every single one and just see the differences, and then have it all graphed. But I got to work on that automation a little bit here first. But you're taking a look at this, and it's incrementing the file or the IO size, as you can see, from 512 bytes to 64 megabytes, and it's queue depth of 4. I just kept the defaults here for this one, and the Samsung drive just is astounding. Going through this, I personally am going to use a Samsung drive as my main OS drive, and then I'm going to use the Western Digital drive as my gaming, my data files and everything else. I'm probably going to even build code on the Samsung drive, so that'll be on my C drive as well. But the games will go to the Western Digital drive. That's just how I feel it's going to go right now. And as you can see here, when we go down to IOPS for the same thing, it almost seems like there's something weird happening with the Western Digital in both the IOPS and the bytes per second. I just don't know what it is. Maybe it's controller based, maybe it's cache based. Either one, it was kind of annoying to not see the consistency of the Samsung. But where Western Digital came from, I'm actually surprised at how well it competes with the Samsung drive. Samsung just has some great technology right now, and I'm glad they keep pushing it forward. But I'm actually really happy that Western Digital is trying to push them as well, because I think that's one reason why we got the 970 EVO Plus. So with that, let's jump into the 16 gigabyte file as well. And as you see here, Samsung then pretty consistent, just like it was. There's a little dip down around the 1 meg, 2 meg range there, slight dip. However, it still stays very consistent for that file size all the way through. And then if you take a look at the Western Digital again, it's really all over the map. And I just couldn't explain this. I kept running the test, trying to figure out what was wrong with it, trying to get it consistent. And I think we're running into a cache thing or controller issue, something there. I don't know if you can really. I don't know if Western Digital is able to fix this with firmware or not. Time will tell. If they do come up with newer firmware, I may rerun these tests again just to see. But then there is the IOPS test again, and you can kind of see where it goes all the way through. Samsung is very consistent all the way through until it starts dipping down. There's one high point and then it dips down. Whereas Western Digital is kind of all over. Starts low, gets high, and comes back down. So again, it's the same thing. I'm thinking it's controller, cache related. Samsung just has a lot of R&D into their drives, and they're doing a great job right now. So I'm kind of actually thinking of getting another like 500 gig, 256 gig for my media center up there, just with how well it performs. We'll see how that goes. But then we jump into the SN750, not just as this one. So the Western Digital SN750 that has a gaming mode in the software. And the reason why I wanted to go through and turn this on is I want to see. They were talking about this supposed to keep the power to it. It's supposed to keep it, so you don't have to, repower it up where it is. Because these NVMe drives can go into low power state, and that's something you want in, laptop. Maybe not a gaming laptop, but in a laptop you want. So in my desktop, I really don't care, right? I'd rather have that power on, and maybe MSI already has the power there, and it's not really making any difference, or it's not going to low power mode enough. But you turn on gaming mode, and you get a little bit of bump up. I don't even know if it's worth it to keep this on. And when I get I guess I am going to keep it on, because this is going to be mostly a gaming drive. So maybe I'll mess with it more, see how games load, turn it on, off, and just mess with it once I get Windows installed. Let me know if you want a video of that stuff once I get Windows on it, or Windows on the Samsung drive, Western Digital just a gaming drive, and just kind of push it there. I didn't even do that yet, but because I'm going to redo this anyways and make it better. But let me know if that's something you want to see. I'm more than willing to do that test as well. But then let's jump into the Hdl benchmark. And the reason why this is so close, that's why I didn't run AS SSD at all. I was just like, really? As SSD, it's too close. Like, I'm already running, you know, trying to figure it out. I'm running half a dozen or 2 dozen, you know, crystal disk mark tests just to try to figure out if I'm going crazy. And I don't think I am. But, yeah, maybe somebody else can explain why this is not going the full, well, not having a bigger impact. Again, then I go to ATTO, running the same benchmarks, 256 file size to begin with, and you'll see here you got your bytes per second. It's actually a little improvement. I think overall it was slight in some areas where it wasn't as, actually it still dipped down in the same areas. Oh, so it's the IOPS that actually improved. So that's where it kind of improved, was the IOPS side that it improved on this benchmark. And then you jump over to the 16 gig file, and that did see a little bit of the same thing where, but actually it seemed like the writes were or the reads were a little bit higher in some areas, whereas the writes were kind of a little bit over. And again, this is probably a controller or cache issue. But then you look at the IOPS were bumped up again. So there's some things there with the IOPS that really improved, but then there's other things that I'm kind of questioning in there. And maybe that's something, you know, Western Digital can go through and improve. But then let's jump into the Samsung drive, or the Samsung drive now, the 970 EVO Plus with the Samsung NVMe driver versus the Windows driver. And from my point of view, again, running a lot of tests on this, it's probably not even worth it, because you're looking at this and you're like, well, my sequentials went down, but I got a little bit better, or actually, yeah, I got better in my QDEP32 one thread, so I got a little bit better in that write speed, but that's about it, right? If you guys can see it, compare it here, I just wasn't as impressed as I thought it would be with the NVMe driver. And maybe and my thought on this is the Windows driver and the Samsung driver both need improvements. This is kind of how I went down this road once I kind of saw, hey, this is how it is. But then we get into, and again, I didn't run any other benchmarks besides Crystal Disk Mark and ATTO for this, because I felt I didn't need to, because there were, you know, if it was a huge jump or if it was a nice performance increase, yeah, I would probably ran more, but it just didn't seem worth it to waste that time. But then you'll see here, when you do this 256 meg on the ATTO, ATO, whatever it is, benchmark, yeah, really crazy. You kind of take a hit there on your reads. So, yeah, I don't know why. You go to the IOPS here, you take it actually has a better IOPS improvement overall. So, again, I'm puzzled. Then I was going through and I hit it again with the 16 gig file. Again, your reads are down. I don't know why your reads are down. And then your IOPS again are up. So it almost seems to me there's some improvement there. But that is something to keep in mind here as I go through all this benchmarking. Let me know what you guys else you want benchmarked. Once I get this video out, I'm actually going to be redoing the computer, putting Windows on the Samsung drive, getting all my games down, getting all my software, getting rendering again on just all SSDs, no hard drives, no slower 2.5 inches either. So overall, I really like both these drives. I think that there's a place in the market for both of them. Right, this actually looks like, especially if they can get the price a little bit cheaper than this guy and keep it there, could be a great, you know, gaming drive, everything else if you want to throw your games on there and really move it and really have some really quick access for your games. This drive, Samsung has just been crushing it for so many years, and they seem like they keep on doing it, and it looks like they keep pushing the envelope. I think it's because of these guys getting even closer, because usually they would have came out with a new drive, but they did a plus. I think it was to not only test the 96-bit layer, but or 96 layers, but they also wanted to keep ahead of everything else, and it wasn't as much of an improvement as they want for like a 980, but I'm impressed with both of them. I think that they both have a place in the market, like I was saying. And I actually want to test more of these, because different SSDs, because it's actually kind of interesting to see how they compete against each other. And I think that there needs to be, these suites out there they do a really good job, but take a look at I know Alan Malvitano at PC Perspective, when he was there, had a great suite running through it as well. I think there's even more room to get more SSD testing out there, because pushing these manufacturers forward, we're going to get more and more SSDs here. And I can't wait for the prices, because these were what I paid, like $240 for each, someplace in that range. And wow, $240, for a terabyte SSD a few years ago, you weren't even thinking about that. And to see what they can do now, I'm really excited to see what the future holds. I think we're going to start seeing maybe NVMe drives as a lot of people's main drives, and the SSDs are just going to be your storage drives going forward. Some of the other SSD Samsung makes with the 2.5 inch, what is it, the QLC for quad bit, that's going to be, I think, a really great, nice storage drive for a lot of people as well. But between these two drives, I think, I'm going to be very happy with both of them. Going to be a great gaming drive, great for having a lot of media on. This is going to be a great, I believe, just main drive in general for everything. It just does, it crushes everything. If these are the same price and I'm buying them, I'm probably getting the Western Digital, or the Samsung, this one. I'm moving this one, but yeah, I'm saying something else. But yes, the Samsung one I'm getting every single time. But if this is going to be a decent price cheaper, I think it's got a great place, and I think it's well worth the purchase. So let me know if you have any questions. Let me know if you have any comments. I'll be happy to answer those in the comment section below. Until next time, I want to thank you for watching. Thank you for taking the time to help support Graya Overload and helping this channel grow. And I really do appreciate everything you guys do. Until next time, don't forget to like and subscribe.